Hello, everybody. John here. So, a lot has happened since last time I made a video. I think, as the few of you know, between the community posts and probably everyone talking, uh, Rooster Teeth has shut down after 21 years. And right now, everything is kind of out in the open right now. No one knows what's going to happen with all the IPs and stuff like that. There's some things I want to talk about it. I think the best place to start out is how I became aware of Rooster Teeth. I think it was 2009, 2010, somewhere in there. I saw the first. Well, I was say the first. I saw my first few Red versus Blue videos, and sorry, everyone's a little sick in the house. Sorry about that. Um, like I said, everyone's kind of sick in the house right now because of the bug that's been going around. So you might hear coughing, people going in and out. I would say, yeah, around that time I saw the first a couple episodes of Red vs. Blue. Then in 2012, I believe it was season 9 or season 10 of Red vs. Blue. I could remember the finale. They had the red trailer for RWBY, and I was hooked. I loved the music. I loved the animation. It's kind of funny to say that it kind of reminded me of Gmod, because I think Gmod was kind of starting to kind of come out of a shell a little bit around that point. So I think it reminded me of Gmod, but this was something more. And I was, like I said, I was just hooked. And then when white, black, and yellow trailers came out, I was just solidified. And then I remember watching the first episode of RWBY, and I was like, yep, this is gonna be awesome. And then, the first and second, and then eventually the third season come out, and then obviously we all found out about, Monty's passing, and it kind of hit everything. I think there was that moment, I think with everybody when like a major person, especially the creator of something, dies, and everything kind of, I don't want to say changes, but there is that change, and no one really knows what's going to happen next. And I think that's what happened with RWBY. Now, from what I remember, Monty, Miles, and a few others, they've laid out planned works for RWBY, and I just think, honestly, I think they just continued with it. Obviously out of respect for Monty, but also too, I think there is that love and passion that was in with RWBY, and I think it's the same thing with all the other animations they made. Red vs. Blue, Camp, even No Matter Nowhere. There was that other one I remember. I can't remember his name, but it was a really nice little show. And that's obviously where like a lot of people kind of split, is because chapter 4 was such a huge point, but I think because it was plot wise, I think it was such a huge shift from being like young kid and seeing the world in like rose tinted glasses to people, people die, really bad things happen, and I think that's how the show shifted. And I just saw some really disgusting things over the years with when it comes to RWBY and Rooster Teeth. I mean, obviously, we have the people within Rooster Teeth who are just not great people. Obviously, there was the one CEO or something that like beat his wife and daughter and was just a horrible person. That guy, should be fucking, murdered in prison. He's a scumbag. And there was a lot of other people that were just awful in Rooster Teeth, and they shouldn't deserve any respect whatsoever. But the people who worked on RWBY and all that. I think they did so much for so many people. I think I said it decently in the community post about how RWBY gave a lot of people who didn't really have much of a voice. Um, you know, look how much it helped with like having like gay and trans representation, and kind of have a pretty good decent point about like racism and like classism and all that. And I think the show really helped with that. And like I said, there was a lot of controversies and stuff that I don't want to really get into. Not that they're important or big, but I think just for time wise, I think it's more important to talk about the right now. I think a lot of people generally, they're like, well, man, Rooster Teeth, it's lost its way. It's been around for 21 years, and the last 6 or 8, it's been rough, and it has ever since they've been bought by Warner Bros. And was it Bernie Burns left? It just, man, things just went downhill. Mismanagement of finances, putting things in too many baskets, and just kind of getting away from where the roots were, which was animation and gameplay. That they started doing live action stuff, and it's just like, well, yeah, that brings in some views, but it doesn't bring in the views and the money you need. But I think generally people are like, well, that's a shame. But then when it comes to like, I just saw the co-founder of Bounding Comics, which is a how do I it's kind of like the Daily Stormer. The Daily Stormer is a Nazi site. It's one of the biggest well-known Nazi sites, and it's kind of like that, but mixed with like, oh, what's that one guy? I forgot his name. He's like some gaming geek guy. He's like big into Star Wars, and he's like the anti woke, all that stupid gravel shit that doesn't really mean anything. And it goes for the both ways too. When you radicalize both ends, it's just retarded. Honestly, I'm not afraid to say it. It's really fucking stupid. But yeah, it's basically that guy. Oh, Geeks and Gamers. That's the guy. That's the YouTuber's name. It's kind of like Geeks and Gamers with Daily Stormer. He puts in like, basically, all these different people aren't, equal to whites, and Asians too. You can't forget the Asians. Even though whites are somewhat superior to the Japanese, that's what they all say. Which is just gravial bullshit. It's just this guy just making up shit to want to see the world burn in a white ethno state, which is just, yeah, that never turns out great. Look at what happened to Europe. It kind of tore itself apart after a while. Same thing with like Clownfish TV, and it's just like, listen, but don't listen to those people because they're white supremacists. Oh, someone will say, oh, well, this guy's like Hispanic, or oh, this guy's black, or oh, they have like minorities and stuff. It's like, it's called race traders. There's a lot of race traders out there. Trust me. As soon as you get any type of money and power or whatsoever, you're gonna jump ship no matter what. It's the sad reality of it all. Same thing with but is like I said too in the community, is RWBY perfect? No, nothing is perfect. Okay, all the stuff you love, like any of your friends. I'm sorry about that. Sorry, the wind. Sorry, I had the window open. It's a little warm. Oh, sorry, I lost my track because I'm just. I don't know, I've been had kind of like a little panic attack the last few days, just because. I don't know why. I think it's just the weather. I think everything's just getting warmer and you're just doing more stuff. But anyways, like I said, all your favorite media and stuff, it's not perfect. I love Halo. I love Call of Duty. More so the older Call of Duties. I love RWBY, obviously. I love anime. There's been a lot of stuff talking about anime, especially with Mr. Horse Guy. That's all I'm gonna say. Hardcore metal, punk, all that has controversies. But I think with RWBY, I think a lot of people don't give it, because a lot of people say, "Oh, I stopped watching after Volume 3." And when a lot of people watch the show and they just shit on it because, Monty died, which, yes, it has affected the show, it still has. But then it's just like trivial shit, and then it's like, but people hate watch. And it's like, why do you watch something that you hate? I just don't understand it. Constructive criticism is totally fine. I want people to, give me constructive criticism on like what I do, between videos and then eventually music, which I'll get to eventually. Trust me, it's got a lot to say. But when you just like, the show's trash, the animators are shit, the guy died and you're just shitting on his thing, you should go kill yourselves. It's like, and then a lot of them are like, oh, because you got the, yeah, I'm just gonna say what they say. Oh, because you got fags and you got trannies and you got pro, woke stuff, and it's just like, just like, it just shows that hate is still a thing. Unfortunately, in this world, it really is. It's sad. It really is sad. It's when it's like, I always say this too. It's like most people who are like trans, who are part of the LGBT group. I don't want to say community, because I think that there's that deviation line between like community and group. I think it's the same thing with like, all right, so I'll say this. How about this? I'll give you an example. BLM, Black Lives Matter. Just the term itself, yeah, it makes sense. Black Lives Matters, they do. They're individuals, they're people, they're humans. Judge a person by their character. You know, but with the organization, well, that's corrupt. You've seen that. And then with like like LGBT, like organizations and groups, they mismanage money like crazy. They put fundings into things that they shouldn't do, and they get the worst people possible to get in there. I mean, yeah, then that's where you get the child molesters, but that's like a handful of people out of, what do they say? Like, there's like five. They say like, was it 500 to 1 billion people, 500 million to 1 billion people out there who identify somewhere on that spectrum, whether it was sexuality or gender. And you honestly think that most of them are pedophiles? Most of them want to chop off, little boys' privates off or whatever. It's just ridiculous. It's a ridiculous thing. And it's just fear mongering. And it goes the same way too. It goes the other way too with like, anti-whiteness and like European things. It's just like, you know, I've said this before because I have heritage in German and Italian and Irish, and the German and Italian part, they left before, like Mussolini and Hitler came into power. But they're I guarantee you, there's my ancestors done some really heinous shit. They probably pillaged and raped villages all throughout Central Europe, and they probably even took part in expeditions across the world. They probably dealt with slavery. I think everyone has those family members. You have to have some sort of, I want to say guilt, but you have to be humble. It's like, well, yeah, my ancestors were shit. I mean, I'm glad where I am now, but I'm not them. I strive to be better than them. And then if you have the good ancestors, you strive to be like them. I know I'm going off on a tangent, but I think this is equatable. So, what's the future like for RWBY and all that? Well, I don't know. I think the best course of action. This is like my perfect world. What happens? I hope the cast and crew and everyone who's worked on RWBY gets bought out by Crunchyroll, because the last season of RWBY was showed on Crunchyroll first. So I think that was them kind of testing the waters, like, okay, we might buy the IP, especially with Ice Queendom. So I think all RWBY IPs, all their spin-offs are going to be on Crunchyroll. Camp, I think I think what the best thing with, like, how about this? I think the best thing for Rooster Teeth to do with its like animated series. So we got like RWBY, Camp, Red versus Blue, their spin-offs. That'd be really cool. I keep saying this. No Man and Nowhere, that was a really great show. And then the other canceled stuff, I think they should be all either on Crunchyroll, or I heard A24. I think that's because of Hell of a Boss, which is going to be a different video because I want to make this a little bit more about RWBY and Rooster Teeth. I think that'll be a really great world. Genlock, it's gonna be this is gonna be one of those things where I think, I leave it where it lies. It's dead. HBO fucked it. They fucked that show to death. We're not gonna touch that. That's a whole other thing. Leave it where it is. But everything else, I think it would be good if it goes to Crunchyroll, then A24 if that's next. Then I don't know who else. I'm not into the. Oh, excuse me. Jeez. I'm not into like the company lore. I'm not Company Man. That's a good channel. But ultimately, no one knows. It's really heartbreaking. It really is. You know, the show means a lot to me. I put it on my battle jacket. You know, I live by keep moving forward. You know, something Matsuome said, and I made so many lyrics and songs and unfinished songs that kind of revolve around that. And I just, I have a strong feeling RWBY's going to continue, but how long it'll take, who's going to be involved, no one knows. I just hope that Crunchyroll does the smart thing and keeps all the people and the cast and crew, everyone who's worked behind it before, gets switched over to Crunchyroll. Especially now since they bought out Funimation, so they got a lot of money. We're talking about like hundreds of millions of dollars here. They're making a lot of fucking money. And then I hope, like I said, Camp, and this all the other stuff. Either they go to like maybe HBO, but like just leave the cast and crew alone. Let them do their own thing. Don't HBO it. You know, don't genlock it. So I guess just my final words about it is that if RWBY ends, then I don't know. I think what I might do is I might make a fan fiction that'll, I've said it before, rival the fucking Bible and how long it is and how detailed it is. And I think I'm gonna like kind of compile all my favorite IPs together, and I think I'll give the show a good ending. I think a good ending that it deserves. But I hope it continues on its path. You know, I hope it does finish. Hopefully, Volume 10 isn't some rushed, you know, final season. And I hope it just, you know, ends naturally. The same thing with all the other shows. I know we keep talking about RWBY, but I think all the other shows too are great. Camp, and I hope No Man Nowhere comes back. Maybe Genlock season 3 if it comes back. I don't know. Whatever spin-offs come out, I'm all for it. But